Ian Neiman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you. The Morning Majority, 630. WMAL.
6:37 on WMAL. Jake Tapper from ABC News coming up 1 hour from now. We'll talk to him about 7:36. Larry Kudlow from CNBC coming your way 2 hours from now. We'll talk to him at 8:36. Grover Norquist is on the phone right now. Grover, president of Americans for Tax Reform. Good morning, Grover. How are you?
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Let me first ask you your general thoughts about the S&P downgrade. Was it accurate, do you think, in your opinion, that we are now AA+?
It's a very interesting question. However, the other question is, back when Obama put his budget forward, which added $10 trillion to the deficit, when he said that there should be no spending restraint in return for increasing the debt ceiling, the S&P was silent. Then after we reduced Obama's planned deficit spending by $2.5 trillion, that's when they announced that there was a problem. So whether or not you want to argue that the massive overspending, the tremendous increase in debt, the cascades of regulations that have all damaged the economy, should have damaged our credit rating, that was true 6 months ago. It seems politically timed to have it come out after a debt ceiling increase that actually reduced spending more than anyone had any reasonable expectation. And the narrative they put in was, oh, gee, you didn't raise taxes like Obama wanted. Really?
Well, all right. So then, do you think that the Senate, there's talk that the Senate is going to actually investigate S&P and the downgrade. Is that worth our time?
Yeah, well, the Senate's not doing anything else, so yeah.
It'll keep the rest of us safe,
yeah,
maybe.
That's right. If they're distracted, maybe we'll be okay.
And isn't it like a dog just chasing his tail around?
Well, it's better than having a dog bite you.
That's true.
Yeah, I think there's a very interesting point. I'd like to see the emails back and forth. I want to know why that S&P quote-unquote downgrade statement reads like the White House political shop's narrative.
Well,
now, the fact that the Treasury Department wasn't in on the joke just means that the administration didn't get their act together. But something smells. Again,
well, Grover,
everything that they whined about was more true 6 months ago.
Grover, here's the thing, though. You don't need to worry anymore. You don't need to worry at all anymore because we heard the president say yesterday that he's going to have some ideas in a few weeks. And then he went on to say, and maybe as soon as Congress gets back, we can do something about it. So Congress will come back at the end of the month, and in a few weeks, the president, for the very first time, is going to lay down his ideas. We don't need to worry anymore.
Okay. This is a gentleman who ran for office on speeches, and then rather than be president, he's decided to spend the last almost 3 years now running for re-election. He gives speeches about what he hopes to do someday. And your outline of what he just said really fleshes that out and makes it clear that this leading from behind theory, which entails not leading, but rather giving speeches about what you plan to do someday. What was that Saturday Night Live routine where they had the two teenage slackers in the basement watching TV, coming up?
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World, yeah.
The ridiculous hopes for the future.
All right, so there's been some whispers, at least, that because of this downgrade, that perhaps we could really have some major tax reform where we're slashing rates again, almost similar to what the grand bargain was, minus tax increases, or at least it would be neutral. You've got your ear to the ground. You're very well connected, obviously. Is that true? Are there talks about that, that we should know about?
I think it's very difficult to imagine that for the following reason. When Republicans and Democrats say tax reform, they mean two dramatically different things. Republicans remember Ronald Reagan's 1986 tax reform measure, which eliminated a lot of deductions and credits and reduced marginal tax rates from a top rate of 50% down to 28%, which made us one of the lowest taxed, in terms of tax rates, tax countries in the world, which was a tremendous step forward. When Democrats say tax reform, they're almost always referring to tax increases. They want to change 1,000 moving parts on the tax code and end up with the Gang of Six plan was about a $2 trillion tax increase over 2 years. So I think there's a real danger to walking into any sort of room with people who have such radically different views. Now, if we go in with an agreement, no net tax increase, then you could accomplish something.
Yeah, well, it sounds like there are a couple Democrats who are at least willing to entertain the lowering of rates in exchange for the closing of loopholes, and it would have certainly good public support, I would think. Do you have confidence that maybe Republicans could negotiate something good out of a situation like that?
Well, again, I think that there's a lot that can be done. There are a lot of deductions and credits we need to get rid of. The rates are much too high. We used to be the guys with the lowest tax rates, particularly on corporate income, and now we're some of the highest tax rates around on businesses as well as individuals. I do not trust Obama's at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue doing anything other than trying to turn this into a tax increase.
Real quick question. I mean, really, it's got to be quick. Gas tax.
Sure.
There's a lot of talk that you guys will be ginning up a fight over whether or not the gas tax should be renewed.
Well, I think what we ought to do now, or as soon as possible, if not now, phase it in, get rid of the federal gas tax and allow states to take those gas taxes and build their own roads without the Davis-Bacon regulations, without all the regulations that come. When the dollar is raised in gas taxes in Maryland or Kansas and sent to Washington, D.C., it comes back with all sorts of strings attached.
Yes.
Much of it is siphoned off to the New York subway system.
Okay. Grover Norquist, always good to have you here on the Morning